What's up, everyone? Shakiel Mahjouri here for CBS Sports, and you know who this is. He is possibly the most accomplished collegiate wrestler ever to step foot in the octagon, and when he's on a UFC card, he's probably the biggest favorite on the whole thing. Ahead of his fight with Paul Craig at UFC 309 this Saturday, Bo Nickal, how's it going, man?
Going well, going well. Appreciate the intro. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. Hey, we gotta try. There's only so much time to break the ice here, so I can keep it entertaining off the top. I'll do my best. Before we get to the Paul Craig fight and the career as a whole, I do have a question. I remember sort of, when people first started talking about, hey, Bo's getting into MMA, that first fight happens, right? And you knock the dude the F out. Walk me through the moment that you realize that you have legitimate knockout power, because that must be very comforting as a guy coming from a wrestling background.
Yeah, for sure. I have a really good boxing coach that I've been working with since the beginning of my career. His name's Moose, and I'd hit the pads with him and stuff, and he'd be like, "You hit hard, bro," and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, like that's cool." Like, doesn't really mean anything to me because I'm hitting pads, but he's like, "You hit hard," and then that first fight, I knocked the guy out cold, and I was like, "Dang, that's sweet. I do hit hard," and there's some proof right there because the guy's laying on the ground unconscious. But yeah, I feel like that feeling of knocking a guy out is just like unreal. It's unmatched. I've pinned a lot of guys in wrestling. I've got submissions, and I've done some cool stuff, and to be able to do that, it's like, yeah, it's a crazy feeling.
How would you describe the feeling?
It's like if you, I guess something more relatable for most people, it's like hitting a perfect golf shot. It's like when you hit the ball straight down the center of the fairway, like perfect arc, and it just lands right in the middle of that grass, and it's just a good feeling like that, but on steroids.
Okay, I like it. We got the Paul Craig fight coming up, and this one's really interesting to me. Again, like I said off the top, you're a significant betting favorite in this fight. You thought the odds might be even wider, but I think Paul Craig presents some interesting puzzles to test Bo Nickal here. Really slick submission game, especially off of his back. People might recall him submitting Magomed Ankalaev with that triangle choke at 4:59 of round three of a fight he was losing. We talked about the power you have in your hands, but obviously the most refined skill is your wrestling. I know you're confident everywhere, but where do you think the path of least resistance for you is on this fight? Is it taking it to the ground, or is it standing with Paul?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Paul's best positions, it's off his back, in guard, and half guard. And so I think the path of least resistance is obviously staying out of his guard, staying out of half guard. And, I think that otherwise he doesn't really have a lot of skills that match up with me. So, for me, for sure, the path of least resistance is just staying out of the positions he's best at. And at the same time, I feel like I could do that, but I'm not really afraid to be
Mm-hmm.
in the guard or the half guard. I feel confident in those positions. I definitely just have to be wary of, putting myself in a danger zone for too long. I think that as the fight goes on, people get tired, people get comfortable, and he kind of lulls people into relaxing. That's how he gets people a lot of times. He's had some submissions early, but a lot of his submissions are a little later, and people get relaxed and feel like, oh, I'm beating this guy up. I'm beating this guy up. I can chill here. And that's when he catches them.
I know you were very hard on yourself after the Cody Brundage fight. I think initially I probably saw your performance a little more optimistically than you did, especially because I don't think the reality is forever that you're going to be knocking out people and submitting them in the first round every time for anyone in the UFC. Now that you've had a lot of time to process, how do you feel about your performance against Cody relative to how you felt immediately after the fact?
Yeah, immediately after the fact was definitely like a little bit of a emotional response, but I feel like I look back on it like as I think that was the best thing for me, just to get more cage time, more experience, and I feel like that's something that I'm really grateful for. I want to have a little resistance in my fights and have somebody. It seemed like he was kind of just trying to survive in there, and made it look a little uglier than it probably would have otherwise. But that's something that I have to learn to deal with, and so I feel like I made a lot of gains and a lot of growth from that.
What do you think was sort of the biggest lesson you took from that fight?
I think the biggest lesson was just about patience and to not rush and feel like I have to uh, get a guy out of there so quick, or make it look a certain way. It really just, I think, was also maturing as a fighter. And I think that when you look at skills, you can have skills that are a certain level, but that doesn't necessarily translate into the way that you fight and the way that your fights are going to look. And I think that, it's so many different things, but it's a balance of those skills and also being able to be mature and calm and present and relaxed in those situations.
It's so funny you say that because, like far be it from me to sit here and play armchair psychologist, but I was watching a clip of yours today. I think it was an interview you did on Mighty Mouse's podcast about how you were like a little miffed initially when you didn't get the UFC contract after submitting a dude in like 1 minute. And I also remember when we spoke last time at IFW, you had predicted that you'd be fighting for a UFC title by the end of 2024. I think we're on a great trajectory. Would you describe yourself, at least in the past, as a little impatient? Like, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's weird because I'm a guy that when I want something, I just go after it as hard as I can. And so I think I oftentimes set a specific timeline that I want something done. And at the end of the day, my timeline and God's timeline have to match up for that to work out. And so I try to be, I guess, more open and more of more of in a collaborative process than, I find myself when I take 100% of the responsibility, it's like things don't really work out the way you want them to, and it can kind of seem like it can seem really devastating, or it can hurt your ego a little bit. But I think if you suppress that ego from the beginning and you're able to take the good from it, as far as the motivation, the discipline, and those type of things go, and then remove the bad with the maybe the destination focus and the kind of constricting timelines, then I think that's when you can have truly special growth, improvement, and the results will come, on God's time. And that's something that I've just been, meditating on a lot recently.
I like it. Well, it's a scary proposition considering how much success your mindset up to now has reaped. So I'm excited to see what the next few years look like. Hey, what was it like getting to move around a little bit with UFC heavyweight champion, MMA GOAT Jon Jones?
Dude, for us, every time we see each other, it's on site. We got to grapple a little bit, So the same thing happened. UFC 285. I was competing on the card with him, and yeah, we just got to test the waters. But he got me a little bit last time. This time I felt a little more confident. I felt a little better, and yeah, it's fun. But yeah, John's awesome. Every single time I've seen him, he's just got such a crazy aura, crazy energy, and yeah, I appreciate being around him and him being so cool to me. It feels like he definitely wants me to win. Like he's some guys at the end of their career, they don't want anybody else to get any shine, but he seems just very confident in himself, and seems like he he's just always been really cool to me.
Sick. Well, we'll call it 1-1. I look forward to the trilogy.
There you go.
I always put out a fan Q&A, and naturally, as I think has been sort of a subplot in your UFC career, a lot of questions about Khamzat, so I'll throw one of them towards you. When you sort of look at Chimaev, obviously you guys are in different places in sort of the UFC rankings at the moment, but what do you see as Bo Nickal's avenue to beating Khamzat Chimaev? What is there that you can exploit?
I think that I just need to continue to improve and develop my skills because he dominates everybody in the wrestling and grappling, and he just won't be able to do that to me. And with the other skills, I think that I can, just I think I can take advantage and win the wrestling grappling exchanges. I think also with more time and experience, I'll be able to win the striking exchanges. And he's a tough guy, so it's not going to be an easy fight no matter what. And I'll go in just expecting to have to be disciplined for whether it's 15 minutes or 25 minutes for a title shot. Just be disciplined for the entire time and execute the game plan. I think that anytime I've done that, I don't think there's anybody in the world that could beat me at whatever I'm doing. Whether that's wrestling, fighting, chess, doesn't matter, business, whatever I'm fully focused on and fully ready to execute the game plan on. I don't really think that there's any reason for me to lose to anybody. So I just have a really strong belief in myself, and that comes from the time that I put in, the effort that I put in, all the little things that I do that I know nobody else is doing. So that for me is where the confidence comes from in the matchup, and that is with Khamzat, but that's with anybody. It doesn't really matter what it is.
Are you any good at chess, Bo Nickal?
No, but I think if I practiced, I think I could figure it out.
Shout out to my friend Dan. He was playing on his phone. We're on the plane. I played one game. I beat him. Retired undefeated.
It's over. Yeah. I'm feel like for me the competitiveness, I got to put so much into fighting that I really can't put too much into anything else. So I would love to have 80 hours in a day and be able to do all different types of things, but
is what it is.
There's only one at a time.
Before we wrap up on some rapid fire, I am curious. I think if you beat Paul Craig, a top 15 opponent makes sense to me. I mean, he's been ranked at light heavyweight. I think he was ranked at middleweight briefly. I'm going to name you the number 11 to 15 guys. Just let me know if any of them stand out as like a cool next fight for Bo Nickal. Going from 15 to 11, we got Michel Pereira, Shara Bullet, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, Jack Hermanson, Paulo Costa.
Yeah, I mean, I would fight any of those guys. I think that for me, my main priority is continue to improve and develop as a fighter. So, after I'm focused 100% on Paul Craig right now, and after this fight, I'll talk to the UFC and we'll figure out what matchup makes sense. But I would love to fight again soon. I've been taking a long time between fights, and that for me is a little tough because I like to compete. So, hopefully I can get a quicker turnaround, and whoever the UFC matches up with me is fine.
Is there like are you the kind of guy who would like to be fighting, I don't know, every 3 months, every 4 months if possible?
I think there's different, cycles and time periods in your career when, you need more and less fights. My first year of fighting, I had 2 amateur fights and 3 pro fights. So I did 5 fights in a 365-day span. And then after that, I took a little more time between my fights and was able to develop more in the training room. And so, I think that's been good for me. And now I would like to, have a span of time where I'm taking fights more consistently. So that's just, I think it kind of goes up and down for me. And there's times when I can fight frequently and times to take off and train.
Okay. I want to finish on some rapid fire. I always like to give the fighters a quick break from UFC Fight Week questions. First, you get the call. There's a team barbecue cookout tomorrow. What cut of meat is Bo bringing? How is he cooking it?
I'm probably going to bring a brisket. I'll throw, season it up and throw it on the Traeger smoker, smoke it for, 18 hours or so. And that's the go-to for a big group.
All right. Shout out to your entire subsection of meats posts on your Instagram.
I love it.
Does Bo Nickal have a top 10 golf swing among UFC fighters?
I'm trying to think of anybody that I've even seen play.
I couldn't tell you.
Oh, is my swing top 10?
Yeah, is your swing top 10 in the UFC?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Easily. Yeah.
Okay. We saw Shara Bullet hit that crazy double spinning back fist. What's one highlight reel KO Bo Nickal has been workshopping that he'd love to get in the UFC?
Oh man, yeah, that back fist, double back fist was insane. I think any of the spinning stuff would be sweet. But I would love a 12-6 elbow KO now that they're legal.
All right. Well, shout out to Oh gosh, I'm forgetting who it was, but we had one of the women's fights. Those great 12 to
Yeah,
6 elbows to the butt. So
I
shout out
saw
to
that.
her.
Yeah, my coach told me about that, and I was like, wow, TKO to the butt, crazy.
Hey, bro, whatever works, man. Whatever gets the job done.
Yeah,
Last one. It's been a question I've been asking a lot of his teammates. When Dustin Poirier does retire, what do you think his legacy is?
man, Dustin's one of the most exciting fighters to ever compete in the UFC, and his legacy is probably just, you know, I don't want to even say like he's the just such a tough guy because I feel like that almost downplays his skills and his you know the amount of guys he's beat. But I feel like I just think of a guy with just a huge heart, just such big heart, and never been in a boring fight. So I think that the sport will miss him dearly, and hopefully he's got one or two more in him.
Bo, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Very quickly for me, guys, thanks so much for watching the video. Subscribe, tap the bell, thumbs up. Give us your official prediction. Bo Nickal, Paul Craig, main card UFC 309 on Saturday. Bo, if there's anything you want to tell the people, I'll let you have the last words, man.
Just thank you all for supporting me, for watching, and yeah, see y'all Saturday. Let's do it.